The Chechen Republic of Ichkeria is the unrecognized secessionist government of the Chechen Republic. The republic was proclaimed in late 1991 by Dzhokhar Dudayev, and fought two devastating wars with the Russian Federation, which denounced the secession. In late 2007, the president of Ichkeria, Dr. Umarov, declared that he had renamed the republic to Noxçiçö and converted it into a province of the much larger Caucasus Emirate, with himself as emir. This change was rejected by some members of the former Chechen government in exile. Ichkeria was a member of the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization. Former President of Georgia, Zviad Gamsakh, deposed in a military coup of 1991 and a leading participant in the Georgian Civil War, recognized the independence of the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria in 1993. Diplomatic relations with Ichkeria were also established by the partially recognized Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan under the Taliban government on January 16, 2000. This recognition ceased with the fall of the Taliban in 2001. However, despite Taliban recognition, there were no friendly relations between the Taliban and Ichkeria. Maskhadov rejected their recognition, stating that the Taliban were illegitimate. Ichkeria also received vocal support from the Baltic countries, a group of Ukrainian nationalists, and Poland. Estonia once voted to recognize, but the act never was consummated due to pressure applied by both Russia and the pro-Russian elements within the EU. History: 1991 to 1994. In November 1990, Dzhokhar Dudayev was elected head of the Executive Committee of the unofficial opposition All-National Congress of the Chechen People, which advocated sovereignty for Chechnya as a separate republic within the Soviet Union. In October 1991, he won the presidential election. Dudayev, in his new position as president of Ichkeria, unilaterally declared the republic's sovereignty and its secession from the Soviet Union and Russia, not recognized by any government except Georgia under Zviad Gamsakh. The country has maintained an unstable existence, due in part to constant threats of invasions from the Russian Federation. Dudayev's government had created the Constitution of the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria, which was introduced on March 1992. In the same month, the opposition attempted a coup d'état, but their attempt was crushed by force. A month later, Dudayev introduced direct presidential rule, and in June 1993, dissolved the parliament. Federal forces dispatched to the Ossetian-Ingush conflict were ordered to move to the Chechen border in late October 1992, and Dudayev, who perceived this as an act of aggression against the Chechen Republic, declared a state of emergency and threatened general mobilization if the Russian troops did not withdraw from the Chechen border. After staging another coup attempt in December 1993, the opposition organized a provisional council as a potential alternative government for Chechnya, calling on Moscow for assistance. However, the issue of contention was not independence from Russia. Even the opposition stated there was no alternative to an international boundary separating Chechnya from Russia. In 1992, Russian newspaper Moscow News made note that, just like the most other seceding republics except for Tatarstan, ethnic Chechens universally supported the establishment of an independent Chechen state. Again, in 1995, during the heat of the First Chechen War, Khalid Dulmayev, an anti-Dudayev belonging to an Ichkerian liberal coalition, stated that Chechnya's statehood may be postponed, but cannot be avoided. Opposition to Dudayev came mainly due to his domestic policy, as well as his personality, on one of the most notorious incidents being a declaration, referencing earthquakes experienced by Armenia and Azerbaijan, that Russia intended to destabilize his nation by artificially creating earthquakes. This did not go off well with most Chechens, who came to view him as a national embarrassment at times, but it did not, by any means, dismantle the determination for independence, as most Western commentators note. 1994, 1996, 1996, 1999. After the war, parliamentary and presidential elections took place in January 1997 in Chechnya and brought to power Aslan Marskardov, Chief of Staff and Prime Minister in the Chechen coalition government, for a 5-year term. Marskardov sought to maintain Chechen sovereignty while pressing Moscow to help rebuild the republic, whose formal economy and infrastructure were virtually destroyed. Russia continued to send money for the rehabilitation of the republic. It also provided pensions and funds for schools and hospitals. Most of these transfers were stolen by Chechen authorities and divided between favored warlords. Nearly 500,000 people have been internally displaced and lived in refugee camps or overcrowded villages. The economy was destroyed. 2 Russian brigades were stationed in Chechnya and did not leave. He took effort to rebuild the country and its devastated capital Grozny by trading oil in countries such as the United Kingdom. Chechnya had been badly damaged by the war and the economy was in a shambles. The war ravages and lack of economic opportunities left numbers of armed former guerrillas with no occupation but further violence. Kidnappings, robberies, and killings of fellow Chechens and outsiders. Most notably the killings of 4 employees of British Granger Telecom in 1998. Weakened the possibilities of outside investment and Marskardov's efforts to gain international recognition of its independence effort. Kidnappings became common in Chechnya, procuring over $200 million during the 3-year independence of the chaotic fledgling state. But victims were rarely killed. In 1998, 176 people had been kidnapped, and 90 of them had been released during the same year according to official accounts. There were several public executions of criminals. Conceding to an armed and vocal minority movement in the opposition led by Muvladir Dagov, in February 1999, Marskardov declared the Islamic Republic of Ichkeria, and the Sharia system of justice was introduced. Marskardov hoped that this would discredit the opposition, putting stability before his own ideological affinities. This was exemplified by the much greater numbers in political rallies supporting the government than those supporting the Islamist opposition. Akhmadov notes that the parliament, which was dominated by Marskardov's own independence party, issued a public stating that President Marskardov didn't have the constitutional authority to proclaim Sharia law, and also condemning the opposition for undermining the foundations of the state. President Marskardov started a major campaign against hostage-takers, and on October 25, 1998, Shadid Barjashev, Chechnya's top anti-kidnapping official, was killed in a remote-controlled car bombing. Barjashev's colleagues then insisted they would not be intimidated by the attack and would go ahead with their offensive. Other anti-kidnapping officials blamed the attack on Barjashev's recent success in securing the release of several hostages, including 24 Russian soldiers and an English couple. Marskardov blamed the rash of abductions in Chechnya on unidentified outside forces and the Chechen henchmen, allegedly those who joined pro-Moscow forces during the Second War. Some of the kidnapped were sold into indentured servitude to Chechen families. They were openly called slaves and had to endure starvation, beating, and often maiming. The years of independence had some political violence as well. On December 10, Mansur Tajarov, Chechnya's top prosecutor, disappeared while returning to Grozny. On June 21, the Chechen security chief and the guerrilla commander fatally shot each other in an argument. The internal violence in Chechnya peaked on July 16, 1998. When fighting broke out between Marskardov's National Guard force led by Suleim Yamadeyev and militants in the town of Gudermes. Over 50 people were reported killed and the state of emergency was declared in Chechnya. Maskhadov proved unable to guarantee the security of the oil pipeline running across Chechnya from the Caspian Sea, and illegal oil tapping and acts of sabotage deprived his regime of crucial revenues and agitated his allies in Moscow. In 1998 and 1999, Maskhadov survived several assassination attempts blamed on the Russian intelligence services. Politics. Since the declaration of independence in 1991, there has been an ongoing battle between secessionist officials and federally appointed officials. Both claim authority over the same territory. Since the fall of Grozny in 2000, some of the Ichkerian government was based in exile, including in Poland and the United Kingdom. On 23 January 2000, a diplomatic representation of Ichkeria was based in Kabul during the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. On October 31, 2007, the separatist news agency Chechen Press reported that Dr. Umarov had announced the Caucasus Emirate and declared himself its emir. He integrated the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria as Vilayet Noxçiyçö. This change of status was rejected by some Chechen politicians and military leaders who continue to support the existence of the republic. Since November 2007, Ahmed Zakhayev says he is now the Prime Minister of Ichkeria's government in exile.